for those who are looking to level up during this time. So they're going to work on the real skills that matter and are going to matter even more in the future of work. So we're super excited about the projects that they're going to be doing and the cohort of people that they'll be around. But what we're looking for in the future are going to be leaders, and these are some of those folks who will be leading us someday soon when they join the working world. So
I'm so excited. We've got hundreds and hundreds of really cool people who have already applied. As I said, it doesn't cost anything. We're donating this to the community. It's going to be really hard. It's going to take a lot of hours. It is not about taking notes. It is not about watching the videos. It's going to take place in small group projects. It's going to take 5 days, many, many hours a day until we get to the other side. So thrilled about that one. And we have one more on the list? Or that's the whole list?
Okay, but I think we talked about it.
Did we talk about that?
Yeah,
we talked about that? So let's do some Q&A.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check my little thing to make sure I didn't break it. Stand by. Huh? It's great. Yeah, it's all good. And so the first question is about writers. Damn straight I see writers as artists. Writing 26 letters in the alphabet, everyone gets the same 26 letters. Some people use a semicolon, not me, but everyone gets the same 26 letters. The question is, how will you string them together to say something that matters? And the magic of this world we live in right this minute is everyone who's listening to this has a keyboard in their hand. And if you've got a keyboard, you can say something. And you have exactly the same keyboard as everybody else. So the question is, what do you care enough about to contribute?
All right, back in the stream. So this is a question from Ludi. He said, what do you see as the difference between making art versus creating?
I think there's a difference between being creative and creating, in the sense that a short order cook creates breakfast. And breakfast could be the same every day. It needs to get done. It's important. We woke up, we're hungry, thank you for feeding us. But it's not creative in the sense that you are not solving a new problem in a new way. And that's, for me, the difference between art and painting, for example. Painting, you can get your house painted. That's not an interesting problem. It just has to get done. Whereas the first time that Jackson Pollock made a drip painting, it was revolutionary. The 8th time he did it, not so much. It starts to become painting unless you reinvest in the creative cycle.
All right, so this question I think feeds great off of that one. So this one's from Lance on LinkedIn. So Lance said, I'm a freelancer, and this concept of saying I'm an artist even though I don't paint makes a lot of sense, but I feel like I don't want to misuse the term when I'm communicating with future clients. So how do I communicate with future clients what kind of an artist I am without them getting confused about these two definitions of artists?
Right. So we're wrapping up the freelancers workshop right now, and we go into great detail in this. But the short version is this: most clients do not want to hire an artist. Most clients want to hire someone who will get the job done. Calling yourself an artist, even if you're a book cover designer, even if you're a landscape architect, is not really an effective way to get a certain kind of client. Once you get that kind of client and you're busy all the time, you can move up to the next level, because there are some clients that are looking for an artist. But the very nature of art is that it is disruptive, and freelancers don't usually get the chance to do that kind of work.
Okay, so this question is from Jonathan. I'm going to throw it up here. So he asked, is working on making yourself better art as well? Or art too?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. I think we got to reserve the term for something, because I'm already broadening it a lot. I think that working to make yourself better is a high calling. It's important. It is the asset, the only one that you truly own. But just like we're not calling engineering art, because engineering already has a word, I think this act of seeing where you can be better for others that you seek to serve, that's important, but it's mostly emotional labor. It's mostly working on your posture, your attitude, the way you see possibility, finding the guts to address the things that you are afraid of. Whereas, for me anyway, art is being able to say to someone, here, I made this. And you really can't do that when you're talking about you. But your mileage may vary.
Yeah, I love, so Pete Shepard is one of our coaches in the All-NBA. He's
Love Pete.
Incredible. Yes, and so he has a podcast called The Long and the Short of It that he hosts with Jen Waldman, one of our All-NBA alum, and she also just helped us with that Real Skills conference we hosted. And I was listening to an episode last night about showing up, and I think he framed it in a really interesting way, but he talked about how you can show up for yourself, then you can also show up for others. And so there's a distinction there, especially during this time, to think about you got to show up for yourself first before you show up for others and serve others, because if you can't do that for yourself, then how are you going to be able to do that second part for the others? But I think that feeds into that question of creating art. You know, is that something that you can do to yourself, is thinking about it as maybe showing up instead of making art in that sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great point. And thank you for that, Pete.
Yeah.
Good noodle, Pete.
Yeah, definitely good noodle. He loves using the word noodle. Okay, we'll take a couple more questions. So this one is from LinkedIn as well. This is from Tina. So Tina says, I feel like my job title defines the work I create, but not the work I want to create. I'm in the process of looking for a new job. How do you suggest that I express the work I want to do as I start applying for those new jobs?
Right. So there's so many layers to this. This is a great question.
Yeah. Thanks, Tina.
Why do we even have job titles, right? Why doesn't everyone just show up and do what they do? We have job titles so that we can judge you before we meet you. We have job titles so we can figure out who's doing what and who's not doing what. That a job title is a fine way to identify a preconceived set of responsibilities and authorities. Now, if you want to do different kinds of work, one option is to find a job where they trust you enough to let you do different kinds of work, and then you go do them. A much more reliable way forward is to first do different kinds of work and then make it part of your job. Because just as we talked about freelancing, clients don't really want to hire artists. Most bosses don't really want to hire people to do a job that they haven't done before, because most bosses are really conservative about keeping the factory moving. And so we have the chance in our spare time, with the podcast we build, with the volunteer work we do, with the freelance gig we do on the side, with our craft, with our hobby, with our art, to build a body of work so that by the time we go to look for a job, it's a no-brainer to hire us to do it. That if you want the freedom and responsibility that comes from being a big-ticket fundraiser for a nonprofit, well, in your spare time, in quotes, go out and raise some money for a charity you care about. Because once you've raised $500,000 for a charity you care about, you're going to have no trouble getting a job as a big-ticket fundraiser. But it's really hard to take a leap on you if you haven't done it once before. So in the old days, the only work you could do was the work you did at work, the work you did at your job. But now in this era of flex time, in this era of multiple gigs, in this era of being multipational, doing a little of this and a little of that, you're your own client. You should give yourself better assignments. Build a body of work so that you can be sure, and more important, your boss can be sure that this one's a no-brainer.
Okay, I'm going to piggyback off of that one, because on LinkedIn, for example, people are able to make their own titles. So under their name, you know, I've seen people on LinkedIn who say head ruckus maker, or, you know, whatever it is that they come up with. So what do you think about those places where you're able to make your own title? How do you create something that might be separate from what you do on a day-to-day basis that represents you even more?
Yeah, great point. So when I was VP at Yahoo, my title was Prime Minister of Permission Marketing. And my boss hated it. I had to have 2 sets of business cards because he didn't want to see the other one. Because in his mind, Prime Minister was above Vice President, or who knows, it was very complicated. Companies need more prime ministers. That's all I'm saying. People are really concerned about themselves. And the main purpose of your job title is to help someone else figure out what to do with you. And if you want to pick a job title for yourself, I think that's great. Do it with generosity. Do it so that the person who sees that job title says, oh, I get the joke. This is going to help me because this person is making a promise implicit in their job title. And you can have Prime Minister Permission Marketing. It's available. You know.
You're done with that one?
Yeah.
All right, we'll take this last question from Chris. So he said, when creating, what is the best way to overcome self-doubt and self-sabotage to just make the creative work flow?
Ding, ding, ding. Great question. I should write a book about that, shouldn't I, Taylor?
Right, yeah.
Yes, I am writing a book about that. Thank you for the question, Chris. The short version is that, oh no, did this just break?
I don't know.
That
you haven't
hiss?
changed on my Instagram yet.
You're not hearing that hiss, that horrible noise that I just started making?
I do hear that, but it's not that bad when I talk.
Okay. I'm going to have to answer this the next time. My software just broke.
Okay. We'll keep it in mind.
I'm going to log off. You do your slow wrap up because this is bad. You keep going.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. It was great to see all of you. I have no idea what happened to my microphone. What an incredible world we live in, that we can just like press a button and people in South Africa and people in Southeast Asia and people everywhere are connected. Keep making your ruckus. Be well. Here's to peace of mind.